Welcome back to another coding challenge video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the grading students problem from HackerRank, and we'll be doing it in C#. So, also, I guess today we're going to be trying out the dark mode on HackerRank. I think they just barely changed this. I swear they used to have one before, but I don't think it was exactly like this. I think they've updated some of their website, and yeah, I'm actually really liking the look of this. Let me know, if you'd like me to go back to the higher contrast white, but I think for now I'm going to probably keep it as the dark mode. So, to go over this problem, basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a custom grading function. So it says there's a professor that has a list of grades. The grades are integers from 0 to 100. It says any grade less than 40 is a failing grade, and then it goes on to pretty much describe how he wants to round his scores, because he likes them to be multiples of 5. So it says if the difference between the grade and the next multiple of 5 is less than 3, then we're going to be rounding the grade up. If it's not, then we're going to be leaving the grade as it is. And then the second condition is that if the grade is less than 38, we're not going to be rounding anything, because they will still be failing either way. So let's look at our constraints like usual. So we'll be given between 1 and 60 grades to look at, and then the scores of each grade are going to be between 0 and 100. So it gives us a fancy table to kind of give you a couple of examples of how this is going to work. So see 73, the next multiple of 5 would be 75, so the difference between that is 2. So 2 is less than 3, so we're going to be rounding that to 75. 67, the next one would be 70. The difference would be 3, which is not less than 3, so we'd be leaving that as is. 38, which is equal to our threshold, if you remember, where is it? So less than 38, so 38 is not less than 38 is equal to, so the rounding will still occur. 38 is the lowest value that we'll be rounding, and the difference between that and 40, the next multiple of 5 is 2, so we'll be rounding that one. 33, the next multiple is 35, so the difference is 2, so we should round it, except for that it's lower than our threshold 38. And so, doesn't matter, he's failing, has to retake the class, sad. So yeah, let's jump to the code. Today I hope to show you, do a little bit more with link, and yeah, show you some more with link. I'm a big fan of link. I like link, and then hopefully we can also talk about how liking link too much is not usually a good thing. So first things first, let's really quickly just type this up, kind of the most basic solution. So we know we're going to be returning a list of integers, and we'll just call this final scores. We'll set that to a new list, and then really we're just going to be going over each grade in grades, and we'll say if the grade, so now we're testing, right? So the first thing we want to see is if the difference between grade and the next multiple of 5 is less than 2. So the way that we can test that is by using the mod operator. So if we mod grade with 5, then we'll get the remainder if we divided grade by 5. And so if we divide grade by 5, we'd want to round anything that is, I guess, 2 or less, 2 included in that, or maybe we could just say less than 3. So if the grade mod 5 is less than 3, then we want to round it. Unless, one last thing is, sorry, I got this mixed up. If it's mod 5 is less than 3, then we don't want to round. That's right. So let's look over at our table right here. This is why it's good to have things drawn out, examples given to you, so you can just look over here and do it in your head and then do it in the code, or do it on paper. So 73, if we modded this by 5, our remainder would be 3, because the highest we would get to is 70. So remainder 3, we want to round to 75. If it was remainder 4, we would want that to 75. If it was remainder, I guess remainder 5 wouldn't exist because that would be 0. So if it was remainder 2, we would not. If it was remainder 1, we would not. And then 0 also wouldn't exist. So really, when it's less than 3, we're not going to round. Okay, we got that out. So the other case that we don't round is if the grade is lower than our threshold, which is 38. So we don't want to round. And here, if it doesn't meet the condition, then we'll round. So not rounding is the easier way to go. So we'll just say final scores, add the grade with no modification. Here we do want to round, so there's a little bit of math that needs to go on here. So we need to add some amount to grade so that it gets up to the next multiple of 5. So if we say grade mod 5, like we were looking at before, we'll kind of get the kind of like the inverted amount that we need to add. So if we say like 5 minus the grade mod 5, that's the amount that we need to add to grade. So look over here, and we'll say, and we'll work this out. So if we say 73 mod 5, we'll get 3. Well, to get to 75, we need to actually add 2. So 5 minus 3 is going to give us the 2. Here's one that they round to. So 38 mod 5 is going to give us a remainder of 3. So the math is the same. 5 minus 3 gives us 2. 38 plus 2 is 40. So that's kind of the math going around here. So we need grade added to 5 minus whatever grade mod 5 is. And there's probably other ways to do that mathematically, but that's kind of the first thing that I would think of. So after that, we'll just kind of return final grades, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and run this, and then I'm going to show you guys compilation error. Final grades does not exist. Oh, did I misspell it? Oh, final scores. Hey, look at that. They added like the highlighting thing. Or maybe that was there before. I don't know. Alright, so as always, definitely helps to type things correctly. Alright, so this is good. This is nice and readable. I think we can make it a little bit shorter with link and not compromise readability. So let's do this over with link. So first, we'll pretty much be doing this in one line. So we'll just start off with the return statement, and we'll say grades, and we'll be using the select statement. So if you're familiar with link, or if you're familiar with SQL or SQL, however you want to say it, the select statement basically is a way to extrude certain items from a list or from a table. And then in C# in link, link calls can take a kind of what am I thinking, like a filtering function. So in here we can put a method that will be applied to every element in grades, which will specify how we want to select them. Okay, so select is going to be giving us back an integer. and it's going to be called many times. So at the end of it all, we'll wind up with a new list of integers. But in our filtering lambda function within here, we're just going to be dealing with one grade at a time, one integer at a time. So for readability, we could just call this variable anything, but we need a variable to use to invoke operations on every member of grades. So we'll just call this grade. If I could spell grade, that would be helpful. Okay, so grade, and here I am. This is lambda notation. I'm not going to get too much into that in this video, so pause and go look that up if you want to. So grade being what we're passing in, and then we're pretty much just defining the method that select is going to use on every member of grades in order to tell how to select it. Now we could like use this for filtering. In this case, we're actually going to use it to modify every member in grades. So within here, we're pretty much just going to have the same logic that we had in our for each loop. So if grade mod 5 is less than 3, or grade is less than 38. Yeah, 38. So we don't want to round that, so we'll just return grade. I don't like that. All right, and if it's not, then we will return grade plus 5 minus grade mod 5. And so how this is going to work is that select is going to go across every member of grades, and while it does that, it's going to name each element temporarily grade and then run this operation on it and compile a new list which we are going to return based on these two return statements. The last thing we need to do is that select actually returns a IEnumerable of integers. IEnumerable is the interface that list conforms to. You can, if you don't know what an interface is, in this case you can sort of think of it as a base class. It's not really, but it's list is a implementation of IEnumerable. And so we need to, the last thing is to just convert it back to a list. So let's run this and make sure I didn't spell anything incorrectly. And yeah, looks like we passed. Submit this code. Cool. So LINQ, it's a powerful tool, can easily become very unreadable, and maybe eventually I'll get around to showing some example code of when LINQ gets really unreadable. But you know, in general, I would just say, like, you kind of want to avoid doing lambdas that are pretty long, and you always want to make sure that your variables are named correctly. So many people I see at my work also, they name variables, you know, just like X, like this, and it's just really because of laziness. I mean, this works. You can name it whatever you want, and a lot of the times the lambda functions that you give to the LINQ functions are doing really, really simple operations, and so a lot of programmers are like, I can't be bothered to name this correctly. Well, I guarantee you your code is not going to be very readable to you in a few days' time. You'll come back to this and be like, what the heck does X mean? So make sure to always give these meaningful names, and always be aware of layering too many LINQ calls. And don't be afraid to break your code up into chunks. Having the shortest amount of code is not always the best. So just always keep that in mind. Being clever is, in my opinion, sort of a disease in coding. Being clever can save you some time. A lot of times it comes at the sacrifice of being readable. So I'm going to cut my rant short there, maybe make another video on this one day with some examples to show you when LINQ can get just way out of hand. But for now, I'll just leave this video where it is. As always, if you can find a better way to do this, comment below. Thanks for watching.